Hello and welcome to the Watson Weekend. We're your hosts. I'm Rick Watson.
I am Nick Kaplan, back again.
Not Jess.
Not Jess. Not Jess.
This is your
Fine.
weekly dose of medicine with just enough sugar to make it go down a little bit easier. Your go-to source of information in retail, e-commerce, technology, all the things.
We are not professionals, as Jess likes to say, but I do feel like each week we are getting there slowly but surely. And I'm back again, so something must be going right. But today, the episode is sponsored by Miracle, and we are challenging you to join the 6X Club because who doesn't want to grow
6X
their
Club.
business, right? Yeah, who doesn't want to grow their business 6X? I mean, I do, but Miracle's AI-powered platform gives you the cheat codes to e-commerce growth. We all need a little bit of help these days. Marketplace, dropship, and retail media all in one place, trusted by 450 plus retailers who got tired of playing small and decided to scale big. So
there we go. Thank you, Miracle, for sponsoring the show. We appreciate you as always. I'm always looking for cheat codes.
I mean, who isn't?
Do you remember the old Nintendo? The cheat codes up, up, down, down, left, right, left, right.
Who do you think the person is that figured that out?
I don't know. I remember we used to get cheat codes from magazines.
Yes. Now, I mean,
we're dating ourselves.
Navigate the concept of ChatGPT being a cheat for my kids or not a cheat for my kids. So
exactly,
the cheat codes are out there. They're out there.
ChatGPT could be the cheat code for life.
So, as we get into the headline hangover, do you want to lead us? Do you want to lead us down that path?
Yeah. Now it's time for the headline hangover. And a big thank you to our friends at Passport, your partner in global commerce. And let's face it, right now, everyone needs a partner in global commerce. So first up on our docket is Walmart Investor Day. I listened to a recent Investor Day in the last 2 weeks. Walmart is trying to calm the street in terms of the current situations. And I don't know. I mean, it was a rah-rah presentation. I like the Walmart management team. They have their shit together proverbially. But they also revealed a few things that I thought were a little bit suspect. One is they're like, with regards to their forecast for the year, particularly their profit forecast, they were like, it wasn't like, we think we're going to make our forecast or we're going to try hard to make our forecast. It was like, we don't yet know enough to cancel our forecast. So I'm like, that means you're pretty close to canceling your forecast. Right. You just haven't quite done it yet. That was one point.
Doing what you can for the soft landing.
Exactly. So they're trying to let investors down easy. That was one point. The other thing that said they have a third of their products were not made in America. And I thought this was kind of the most, I don't know if it's disingenuous as a statement. I just thought the statement is very slippery. What does made in America mean, actually, Nick?
It definitely has, similar to how like organic has become very loosely defined. I think made in America is also very loosely defined. And I think slippery is a good word because it could be assembled. It could be,
right.
Sort of last mile. So I think that it is not clear to me, Rick.
Yeah. I mean, Apple says its phones are designed in California.
Exactly.
Maybe they were designed in California.
Their stock price will tell you they're made in China.
Right. Although I think it's made a rebound since, if you can afford to go to the inauguration, then you might not have a tariff.
Exactly. There should be a correlation between presence at the inauguration and how you're faring in the tariff world.
Yes. I mean, just a reminder, we are a live show. If you have comments, questions, feedback for us, drop it in the comments. We're always excited to hear about it. So that's Walmart. It made me feel a little more worried.
I mean, if it's making you feel a little more worried, how do you think the street read into all of the sort of little threads woven into that narrative? If Walmart, and Doug McMillon is a master communicator, a great
Yes.
storyteller, if they can't come out with strength, doesn't bode well for the rest of
Yeah.
us.
Yeah. And John Furner, the US CEO of Walmart, does not F around. That's what people say about him. So we're excited. Next up in the headline Hangover, what do we have next here?
Speaking of excitement,
oh boy.
I mean, it's a really interesting story, the Shein IPO. It sort of started here, right? Those efforts stalled. I think the U.S. lawmakers said, I don't think this is a good
Not so
idea,
much.
right? I mean, it had labor issues and customs loopholes, and by the way, de minimis closed.
Yeah.
So now we're in London, right? Looking in the UK to see what happens. I think they are making, right? There's some progress being made there. Certainly, it isn't a no, but and I believe like there is a preliminary approval.
That's right.
But as all things China seem to lead back to the mothership, we are waiting on the Chinese regulators to really, right, to allow this to go through. And it's really unclear in the circumstances if that's going to actually happen. And by the way, if it should, I think their business has certainly been considerably changed. There was letters that went to customers explaining the situation, and that people, I think the date was April 25th. They're going to honor their prices until that date, but on April 26th, it's buyer beware. I think we could certainly see a lot of movement. So I don't know.
Yeah. It's,
trade wars abound.
I mean, it feels like they've been trying to IPO in the last 12 months, and the situation now is quite different. And so how that plays in China, would China be more likely to have it come out now and therefore push it faster? Or are they likely to pull back once they have more clarity on the global trade situation is a different question. I mean, if the financials just took a huge hit, it may not be the best time to IPO, which is similar to what we saw from Klarna and StubHub. Both pulled their IPOs in the US this year.
Yeah. I think environmentally, it's not in their favor under good circumstances. When you factor in their challenges that will come from the de minimis closing, as well as other pressures put on them based on the model and where the things are coming from, in my eyes, it doesn't bode well. But they're a very profitable company and they need to create an exit point for investors. And so it'll be interesting to see how, in fact, they do that and whether it's through IPO or some other means.
I am also interested in seeing what happens here. I mean, speaking of China, which it feels like everything is about China here, our next story, I'm super excited about it because it's something I think you identified. I think I don't know how many conversations we've had about this. It seems like if you've been on TikTok in the past 2 weeks, you have been bombarded with, I don't know, what's the word for it, Nick?
Propaganda.
Propaganda might be the best word.
Content.
It's personalized content, Nick.
Right. Exactly.
Perhaps from the Chinese government. Almost certainly from the Chinese government.
That would never happen, Rick. Ever.
So we have some clips of that here. We're actually going to listen for you. Have you seen this? By the way, it's vanished. So our recording may be the only place you could see it.
Exactly. We're after this is done. Well, we've already actually backed them up and put them in a safe place, but we're going to put them in an even more safe place. But yeah, let's show them because they're awesome.
China is hailed as the world's factory, accounting for a whopping 28.7% of global manufacturing. Who are the suppliers behind Louis Vuitton in China? Very few people know these suppliers because most of them have signed a confidential agreement with Louis Vuitton.
There's nothing a Chinese factory can't make. Brooks Brothers, a premium shirt brand from the States, actually produce most of their products all in China.
Who are the Chinese factories
These guys are
behind
very
Nike,
excited.
Adidas, Fila, and UGG, and produce 80% of the world's luxury bags? Brands like Tory Burch, Coach, and MK,
Wow.
they are all clients. Zara shoes, Skechers, and JCPenney kicks all comes from one factory, Yuanlitong, Guangdong. Most of the Dior handbags and Chanel dresses, they are also made in Guangzhou. Who are the Chinese suppliers of Hugo Boss? With Shengtai Group in Zhejiang province. He told me the cost of some products only less than $50, and how much they sell it in the boutique store.
Production value.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'll let you take the first crack at this one.
Yeah, thank you. I'm chomping at the bit. I mean, listen, I think that there's probably a large degree of truth in a lot of that, right? I think that there definitely are NDAs signed. There's a high level of secrecy in terms of what some of these factories do. I think that it should be noted that specifically LVMH came out this week and denied this claim that they're making things there. To go back to your earlier comment about like what does made in America mean? There's a lot of things that are made in China with Italian leather or goods imported. You know, the world is a very small place, and I think that we talked about this earlier in the week. You know, 40 or 50 years ago, I'm going to guess it was around that time that someone recognized that China was a really amazing option for production, and what began as something that was low quality over the last 40 to 50 years has become super high quality. And not only are the standards higher in China in terms of the product that they're producing and the discipline that they pay and the level of pride in what they produce, but like the skill is higher. So it doesn't surprise me to hear this. I was incredibly surprised at the flood of content that was being put out. And it is crazy to me, and I'll sort of volley it back to you, that
Yeah.
in the last 24 hours, it's disappeared. As quickly as it came, the messages it was making, the fact that the administration had extended by 75 days, giving this opportunity, and they took this platform and used it so effectively was not lost on me.
Yeah, I mean, I just felt like a week. I couldn't. It was most of my feed.
Yeah, it was every other video.
Just going on retail, e-com. If you are a merchant at one of these brands, I mean, do you want, like, if you're Louis Vuitton, do you want the world to know that you're made at the same factory as JCPenney?
I mean, of course not. And I think that the reality, though, is that, and maybe it's not Louis Vuitton,
It
but
may not be true.
someone in that ilk
First of all,
is, well, no. Let's just, for purposes of like clarity, like we're not implying that Louis Vuitton is made in China. There are people in that world at that level who are. And by the way, you're probably getting better craftsmanship in terms of construction and in terms of sewing in China than you are anywhere else in the world, let alone maybe, you know, in the old school evaporating Italian craftsmen for leather in other places, right? So it does make sense.
yeah. But what you can't do at scale.
Right, exactly. And I think that, you know, that's a really important point. I mean, I don't think that people here in the United States understand what goes into a garment, but I do think that to put factory names in places, that level of exposure to me was just unprecedented.
Yeah. No, for sure. I agree with that. So that's our headline hangover for today. We appreciate, thanks for you, Passport, for sponsoring the headline hangover segment, your partner in global e-commerce. We have an interesting guest that we interviewed, actually a good friend of the program, Jordan Sielaff. He is the co-founder and CEO of Geared. Geared is a marketplace operating platform that provides analytics and automation for omnichannel marketplace, designing to make, essentially selling frictionless for brands. Jordan, has so much experience in the space. He's been at probably one of the few people who's been at both Amazon and eBay, and a seller on his own. He's pioneered a number of different programs, and so I'm super excited. We have a number of clips. We're going to release the whole recording as to our YouTube channel as well. So follow that. But we have a number of clips that we're going to review today, and so we appreciate Jordan being part of the show.
Yeah.
I built a business within a business and started seeing, the real opportunity within marketplace right about 15 years ago. Started to see just the large expanse of opportunities within the customer, how customers shop, what they are looking for within the space, and then ultimately realizing, hey, there's different ways to be able to run the business online that give you an advantage in the space. And so I just doubled down on those type of opportunities. Shortly after I built out a company within a company, it was for a large publicly traded insurance company. We built out a mobile sales platform for cell phones, used cell phones. And I worked with Amazon to build out a program called Amazon Renewed. And ultimately went over to work with the Renewed team at Amazon. But every time I would work with brands, I would see the gap that exists in that space, which is, you talk about scrappy marketplace requires a level of scrappiness,
right?
But with a large enterprise company, you need lots of data to back it. And the systems that existed in that space really weren't solving for that data gap and the automation gap, largely because in a scrappy world, it's very hard to invest, double down, and build out infrastructure to support that type of environment. But I saw, years down the line, seeing where brands are going to want to participate in this space and migrate sales from their traditional retail path and towards the 3P side. And so John and I, my co-founder, decided to build the system that allows brands to be scrappy, but backed with an immense amount of data and efficient systems leveraging automation.
It's so interesting. I always love hearing origin stories of businesses. First of all, I mean, there are a lot of podcasts out there like that. It's great to hear Jordan come on and talk about how he had some insights, went on to help Amazon build their Renewed program, I'm sure he saw the immense amount of data Amazon uses to run their business, and then took some of those ideas to help regular sellers on marketplaces, which really became Geared, which, by the way, I don't think we've mentioned yet, just raised its Series A. So we're all super happy and proud of Jordan as a friend of the show. So
yeah, nice when that happens. A good vote of confidence when the financial markets come in and support you, especially at a time when capital markets are not so friendly. And I agree with you. Like, origin stories are fantastic, and I think a lot in the work that we do, helping people, businesses sort of figure it out and evolve. One of the first questions we ask is, what problem are you solving? And obviously here they realized the market opportunity and the need to solve a problem. And I think, when you think through the ability to have kind of a dashboard per se, or to make things more efficient, and I know that between orchestration and they do fraud, they do things to make it better. And it's cool to sort of have an operator step back and be like, oh, wait, there's a better way to do this. And I think, as we'll talk throughout this conversation, the vitality and the growth of marketplaces as a really meaningful channel to businesses.
Yeah, I think the backdrop of marketplaces is so interesting, because I think there are a lot of people that understand marketplaces really well, that have been in the space for a long time, but there are a lot of people who misinterpret marketplaces or somehow separate them from their overall channel strategy, or like they're this other thing. Right. They should operate in a silo, which it never really made any sense to me, because there's only one consumer.
Right. And in theory, there should be one inventory and
Right.
one brand. And
Right.
I think that I know that really must, get under your skin as a eBay or like an OG eBayer. When someone really makes that mistake, it's a big problem for you.
Yeah. Yeah. You could you could say that. Jordan, we have another clip coming up here where Jordan talks about the difference between traditional retail, obviously, make a product, get a PO, sell into traditional retail, versus a marketplace environment where it's kind of real-time demand. And we'll talk about this a little bit more as well after the clip.
It's because that's usually the biggest question that most brands have when they come to market. They'll say, hey, what's the demand and how much what's the PO? Because traditional retail, they're going to commit certain allocation towards the channel. They're going to be in a position where they're going to say, hey, I'll produce these units if you have a PO that I can produce against. In the marketplace, it's all real-time demand. And so you're in a position where the consumer, the buyer of the product is the PO, right? And since it's adjusting in real time, that's why you have to adjust your production schedules in a way where you're producing faster. Really strong. A customer players in that space is Zara, who is manufacturing on demand, shorter lines. It just creates a lot more flexible environment, and a lot more sustainable production structure.
I mean, agree, disagree. I think that it's a really valid point. The real-time demand is critical and valuable to businesses for consumption, customer acquisition, brand awareness, and inventory turn, which leads to cash conversion and growth. But I think that the supply chain is a really tricky thing, and the challenge that most brands have, and I think, another thing we could probably chat about is like retail versus brand direct to consumer and how that evolves. But it isn't easy to make 100 of something. And a lot of people I work with struggle with that, the term MOQ, right? Minimum order quantity. Those people that we just saw in those factories, like, they're all really happy and selling their wares and services, but go to them and ask them to make 50 of something, let alone even 100. And so I think that has to be sort of thought into or factored into and thought through with what Jordan's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of feels like all these topics kind of blend together. Shein is such a revolution because it has this demand sensing property, and then it has this sort of distributed, very low minimum order quality manufacturing marketplace, for lack of a better word, that can produce these thousands and hundreds of thousands of styles a week. Even though you can get a PO every minute in a marketplace, you still need to forecast your demand and to ship those products into Amazon's facilities. And so I think if you're first party on Amazon, obviously Amazon will write you a PO, and sometimes it might feel like every week they write you like a little bit smaller PO,
right? Exactly.
Because that's what works for them. But on the FBA side, you need to be the one that judges how much inventory you have on hand.
I think if you think about the customer service business, and a lot of that has moved offshore, specifically to the Philippines, right? But a lot of that also has kind of become a cottage industry here, which is to say there are people whom don't necessarily want full-time work and are skilled and capable and need flexibility, so that there's these systems now that route calls to people all over the US, and there's logic. We don't have that in what Shein and is doing, right? Like Shein is what they've sort of mastered that, but we don't have a means where there's someone waiting on the other side to sew a garment when an order gets placed.
Yeah. I don't think anyone's talking about doing that on marketplaces anytime soon. And I really don't think that was Jordan's point either.
No.
Right.
But I guess what I'm saying is, on the supply chain side, to meet minimum quantities, you would need to have that level of sort of flexibility.
Yeah.
Whereas and there's a balance. There's a balance, right? Like, I think that starting a business today, I don't know like what I would do, right? Like, how would you go out and find things to create that initial product order to sell on, like, just to say it's marketplace driven. There's a ton of super, well, they're going to be impacted right now, but there's a ton of super successful Amazon sellers, a lot
Right.
being written about what's going to happen, because so much of it is almost like arbitrage. It's like,
Right.
find a product, resell that product. But if you're making a product, you're building a brand, you're not just a reseller, you're an actual seller.
Yeah.
That's I guess my point. But I think he makes an excellent point, and I am hugely pro marketplace, by the way.
Yeah. No, that's good. And speaking of pro marketplace, I mean, I think there's still a lot of brands that don't have a great marketplace strategy. And you search for their brand. I mean, look, brands have here's a dirty secret of Amazon. 70% plus of searches are what? They're unbranded, meaning people looking for solutions to problems. They're not looking for a brand. However, if you are a brand and you do have unaided awareness and people type your brand name into Google, they're also going to type your brand name. They're also typing your brand name into Amazon, which is a huge tailwind for your Amazon business. And if you're not controlling that experience, so Jordan, in our next clip that we're going to roll in a second here, like talks about like, is it too late to join marketplace? Is it okay that it's 2025? It feels like I may have missed the revolution, but I don't think it is.
Even it's been around for 20 plus years.
Right.
The reality is it just started, right? Like if I were to look back in the last 20 years, most of the marketplace has been small iteration changes. But we're in a hyper change environment for marketplace. And so it's a perfect time for brands to step in and go, how do we own it? And how do we take advantage of the advantages of marketplace for our business to streamline operations, production, and then ultimately how you capture the customer.
Yeah. I mean, so I first of all, it's an amazing statement. Marketplaces are the current and future of retail, because I think a lot of brands are still trying to unpack a simple question like this.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that if you don't have marketplace as part of your strategy today to learn and evolve into tomorrow, you're behind. You're really behind. We talk a lot about inventory efficiency, customer acquisition. So forget about revenue. Just to be able to connect and build community, to put your wares in front of people, and to have that additional opportunity to turn your inventory, like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. How do you feel about, and I see a lot of people struggle with this, particularly like 1P, but also 3P sellers. In normal retail, especially like if you're in a fashion, like a boot, every year you produce a boot, and it's like a little bit different than last year's boot. However, on Amazon really rewards, let's call them long-running SKUs. SKUs that are around for like 5-6 years. And I think a lot of people miss the differences between the traditional retail channel of like newness versus, call it, third-party trust and credibility created by reviews. Like, how do you think about that?
Such a great question. First of all, I don't even know what normal retail is anymore. It's always like the new normal. I think it's a really interesting point, because so much of when you go out and you find a subject matter expert or a third party to come in and help you build an Amazon business, and many people do, one of the first things that they talk about is the value in reviews, right? The opportunity to trade in trust, and how Amazon does reward that. And I think that it is a problem that is not yet solved, because you have, like, on the one hand, you have like brand credibility. So to your point, like people searching for, X brand product. But on the other hand, you have people just searching for product, and what gets rewarded is, some degree your investment and spend in acquisition, and then your reviews and the trust, and that those two come together for like Amazon's pick or bestseller, and those badges are just so incredible.
Right.
I think what ultimately happens is, and this will be kind of like the war between 1 and 3P for Amazon, which is like, and other marketplaces too. I mean, while Walmart, Target, Amazon, and a few of the others just are the business. I mean, there are a myriad, like thousands of marketplaces, and as you sort of like kind of come down from that, it becomes more challenging to succeed because the traffic to those marketplaces is lesser. But yeah, I think that search, which is a big component of what Amazon is, and
Right.
how we behave and how we can optimize for search in Amazon will evolve. But I don't know that there's yet an answer for fashion on Amazon versus staples on Amazon.
Yeah. It seems like Amazon there's these quotes saying Amazon fashion is like so huge, how many billions of dollars. Yet if you look at like the top 10 SKUs, I'm sure like over 50% of it, it's like underwear, socks,
Right.
t-shirts,
Right.
like basic tees, right?
Right. I mean, you asked me earlier about a definition of made in the USA. I even joked about organic. I'll also joke about like fashion.
Right.
Right. Because you're right. It's probably like this really effective kind inspired by a brand underwear on Amazon. That's probably pretty good.
Exactly.
It may even be sort of made in a very
It
similar
may or
place
may
to
not be what I'm wearing now.
Exactly.
But to kind of continue our discussion, getting off my underwear for a second, I asked Jordan kind of a stupid question.
Such a thing?
Which is there's not stupid questions, only stupid people. That's what my parents always taught me.
I agree with you.
But I asked him, is marketplace accretive or not? And so we'll see what he says to this. Is a marketplace accretive?
Yeah.
Or is it cannibalistic? Is that a bad question?
I think it is, and I have fielded it for years. You know, and the reality is, you know, I always believe that when something is dynamic, it's opportunity to scale. So yes, there might be some cannibalism from other traditional channels. Like if you're walking into the store, clearly there is a level of cannibalization, right? We're seeing retail stores, you know, shut down, and because the migration of sales have moved online from, you know, physical brick and mortar. So there is a level of cannibalization, but in many ways it's increased the opportunity size, because now a shopper that is not adjacent to a large city that has access to a store can now source it. And so in many ways it's increased the size of the market, but also it's global now. So when you're selling online, you're not just selling within your region, you're now selling to the world. So in many ways, I believe it's definitely additive to the environment.
Yeah. By the way, I mean, we have a friend of the program who's also been on the show, Ali Khan Sunergy, former head of legal for Amazon Fashion, by the way. Somewhat calling us out of our definition of fashion, that t-shirts and socks are not fashion. Indeed, they are fashion.
I mean, just to speak to that before answering.
By the way, thank you for your comment. We appreciate.
It's a great comment. You know, when you know, I was a merchant, I think it was a really invaluable part of my career. And there are sort of three designations, right? There's core, which just never changes, which is kind of what we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
Then there's fashion core. So taking those products and making them sort of fashionable, so they have like a little bit less exposure to risk, but still like the color could be raw in the print. And then there's fashion. Right. So I think that like what we're talking about is like the trends in the fashion. Right. Anyone that's not really looking at the subscribe and saves or thinking about like core items on Amazon, you might want to. But I think that's a really good point.
Do you subscribe and save your underwear, Nick?
No. I like, it's like the one thing I get, like, I don't know, I get it for holidays every year. Since we celebrate both Hanukkah and Christmas, it's unclear how to define that.
Yeah.
So no, I'm very particular about my boxers, just for what it's worth. So it's like the one thing I buy from J. Crew. But we can get back.
Yeah, let's go back to Jordan's question, because I think it's interesting. He told me it was not a great question. I
I think it's
actually,
a great question.
yeah.
And I think there's two answers.
What are
Like,
the
because he
two
had one
answers? So,
answer. Well, you were like,
is
well,
a
you were like,
marketplace accretive or
sorry,
cannibalistic? Everyone asked the question. I like
it's
he said, he's
both.
going to ask it for 20 years.
It's
It's both.
both.
It's both. It's neither.
But it's like, who cares? I guess that's my point, right? It's like, another thing we ask people is like, who's the soul of your brand? Like, so in addition, like, what problem are you solving? It's like, look, how do you connect and build community? And the answer to me would be in any way that I can. And so one thing that people really need to be talking about is a channel distribution strategy and measuring risk tolerance, reward, and always evolving it. And so thus I'd say, rather than predetermining that your marketplace may actually cannibalize your business, because a lot of people are like, well, did did launching on Amazon, and I had this happen a year ago, like, did launching on
Mm,
Amazon hurt our business? And I don't know really that anybody fully knows, but overall the total business grew. So guess what?
it helped.
That organizations don't have Amazon and DTC either teams or people sitting together, to me, is interesting. So I think
Yeah.
that's what kind of talking about, right? Do you think that that's weird, right? Wouldn't you look at it as like just revenue and customer?
At the end of the day, look, your buyer is on a journey. And I think there are some buyers that prefer to buy on Amazon. And they want to see you show up there, and they want to they want you to make it easy for them. I think there are some people, for some categories, the trust factor could be a little bit different. I have definitely talked to other consumers that worry about beauty on Amazon, not to like poo-poo the Amazon beauty category, or like baby products on Amazon, just because they're worried about the third party element of it, maybe in a way that they didn't used to 10, 15 years ago on Amazon. It doesn't mean the whole marketplace is like that, but it definitely means that there are different types of consumers with different preferences. And if you're not showing on Amazon, by the way, the number one e-commerce platform in America
Right.
by a long stretch, you're 100% leaving money on the table, because I think people want to know, like, let's also like say the quiet part out loud. Customer experience on a brand's direct to consumer website isn't always the best. You go to these freaking websites, it's like 3 to 5 days. What the hell does that mean? 3 to 5 days from what?
Right.
Amazon tomorrow. I can't tell you how many times I bought the same thing on Amazon that I could have easily bought on the brand site, but I couldn't wait around for it. Who has time?
Yeah, we talked about this coming out of Shop Talk, right? And I've continued to talk about it since, which is a lot of brands are using TikTok shops to sell, but are finding that the consumer is going to Amazon to actually buy the product. And so I do think that, you have a catch-all on Amazon, and that goes back to like the 1P, 3P component, right? Which is like, what are you going to be? And so as the world evolves and changes, and we've spent a ton of time talking about Amazon, but like Walmart has Walmart Plus. It is a big and growing part of their business. Target's marketplace, although this week, it's funny how few people got dinged by the DEI stuff, and Target has really just been caught up in it. So, but I think that, I think that you need to diversify your revenue channels, and marketplaces are a great opportunity. Not everybody can afford or do Amazon FBA today, but people continue to lean into it and they make it more efficient. But
Yeah, I mean, by the way, Amazon is not just a marketplace, not just a retail platform anymore. It's an advertising platform. And
a
even
big
if you
one.
don't have your products on Amazon, Amazon DSP, Amazon product search, your brand gets impressions. You can buy impressions against your brand. You can drive them off Amazon now. And so Amazon has introduced a new program called Shop for Brands that they're piloting, and it will include products that aren't on Amazon, almost like a Google Shopping type experience. And Amazon is even experiencing with, I can now say the word agentic on the program, with an AI buying experience. So you can click and Amazon will go out and like robotically purchase the sale for you. I haven't seen that actually in the wild yet, but I have seen third-party items on Amazon that don't have Amazon inventory. And so they're definitely actively testing it. And so even regardless of that, the retail media aspect, Prime Video, Black Friday, football, you know what I mean? And Thursday Night Football. Amazon has created so many new unique properties for retail media, and I think we're going to continue to unpack that in future shows too.
150%, and I think everybody's striving to do
Is that a
right.
tariff number?
That would be like 1,000,000% at this point.
Oh,
But I do think that Amazon leads the way. But and speaking of Shop Talk, 2 years ago, retail media was like a huge opportunity, and so like on the one hand demand, on the one hand supply, you have whether it's malls or retailers or marketplaces that have built over the years a dedicated community of customers. Monetizing those customers in an acceptable way has become big business.
Yeah.
And so retail media is super important.
Yeah.
And it's a big opportunity, and I think it will be something that you and Jess and every occasionally now and then me will discuss in future.
You sneak in sometimes.
I one day I just feel like I'm gonna be like taken out of the equation, but still here, still kicking.
Still here. But Jordan isn't done with us yet. He has some interesting thoughts on how Amazon got to be so big and their investment levels, and a little bit about AI too. So that's in our next clip.
Amazon is a leader in the marketplace, despite the fact that they may not have it as flexible to be double down strictly on the marketplace structure. They're still a leader, right? They have more advanced tools. They've invested, have the most heavy in this space. I think the Rufus thing is going to drive a lot of data. As with everything within Amazon, it's a learning environment. So everything that gets launched is with intent to learn and iterate. And so nothing is looked at as strictly monetization reasoning. There is a monetization element within Amazon, of course, with every product that gets released, but ultimately it's a learning and evolving tool. And like you said, AI is going to drive more advanced buying experience. So if you're a buyer today and you say, hey, these are the things I typically buy, curating it so that it's your marketplace versus the everybody's marketplace. If you arrive on Amazon today, they've already created your page type environment, but it's not as dynamic as it needs to be. Rufus creates a more dynamic opportunity to evolve you arrive at Amazon and it's literally your Amazon, right?
Right.
I think that's the future of the way more of like a page like TikTok or an eBay or Instagram, where it starts to feed you what you like, and it knows what you like before you know what you like, which is scary because sometimes that can be tweaked. And so you need to be cautious of AI and how it gets ahead of itself. But
for sure,
I think you're going to see more curated shopping experiences in the future. Rufus is going to train that curation, and it's going to give them an edge.
I'll have to say, like in the list of AI implementations, I actually quite like Rufus, especially if you get to a product detail page on Amazon.
What do you like?
There's so much information. There's like the images, and the images have text overlays and explainer videos. And then there's like the bullet points, and then thousands of reviews. And then the brand, like the below the fold, there's like so much information. Like how could you can't digest all the information. But usually when you go to a page, you're just like, is this product safe? Why is it safe? Like there are usually like a few very simple questions you want to ask. And if you just type them in, Rufus will answer them, which I think is kind of a little bit of a revolution in consumers being in the driver's seat versus the, I don't know, if the merchant or the marketer being in the driver's seat. It's like you're trying to give the consumer the information, what they want, when they want it, and you don't have to necessarily guess what to put above the fold 100% of the time.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There is so much information on an Amazon product detail page that and by the way, they're not all the same, right? I mean, the general layout is the same, but there, in some cases, is a massive amount between the top and bottom. I mean, and the bottom is where reviews are, so you invariably get there.
Right.
And I didn't really think about it. I haven't used it a lot. I've used it a little. And because I know so much about when I know what I'm going to get when I go there, I just get it.
Yeah.
But a few things I have looked at in terms of the efficiency, I do like it, and I agree with you. I agree with Jordan that the conversational component, like it kind of knowing preemptively what you may want, is kind of scary, but sort of here.
Yeah.
So
no, I mean, I like Jordan's point. You know, people's like, well, how did Amazon get so big? Number one, they took the first huge risk with their marketplace, which is to put third-party items in their main search on their primary SKUs. I mean, that nobody else was willing to do it. And so they were first, and they take bigger swings and bigger bets. So it helps when you're first and you invest more. And then they added logistics on top of it. And now they're adding retail media on top of that continues to invest and grow. So that flywheel, that gives them so much more cash to invest in the business than all their competition. And I think Walmart is basically just sort of copy paste this formula. And if you have scale, you can make it work. If you're not Amazon or Walmart, it's a little more challenging. Not to say that those other types of marketplaces aren't as valuable, because they are. If there's a need for selection on the website, and I've always said this, like, from the beginning, a marketplace is a supply chain tool. And if the supply that marketplace can provide for you is accretive from a consumer point of view, like you're collecting a lot of supply in one place, you're saving consumers time, money, headaches, frustration. Like, marketplace needs to be solving a problem, not just like a few 5% more items.
You know, one thing that I don't think we put enough value in is Bezos's leadership and culture setting. I mean, he started by packing up his car, leaving an incredible job, and going to Seattle. And he made all the rules from day one. There's no, and he's gone, right? And Jassy grew out of his mold.
I don't think he's gone. He's still around.
For all intents and purposes, though, he's not running Amazon day to day. And there's a new leader, but a new leader that's cut from his cloth and basically like his child, right? The leaders of all these other businesses inherited public companies with the inability to say no to the markets. And Bezos did. I mean, he reinvested everything in this. And as a result, you wind up with a tool like Rufus that is solving problems. It is making the consumer experience better.
Yeah.
And because of this company and its willingness to, now that it's a runaway freight train, lean into that to be able to do what it believes is best, and make some mistakes, by the way, is given them these types of products and opportunities.
Yeah. So, I mean, look, this has been a fantastic discussion. We really appreciate all the insights from Jordan. We more than congratulate him on the recent Series A for Geared. So thanks for coming on and fueling our discussion, and look to have you back on in the future.
Yeah, I think it was great. I love marketplaces. I love what you had to say. I think it's a great product. It's solving problems, and it was a pleasure to chat about the conversation that you guys had.
Yeah. Meanwhile, we have somewhat more lowbrow content on the docket next.
Like so low.
And so, what do you have for us, Nick? I think we're in this tariff situation, I came up with this idea of Nick held hostage. So we're going to see that coming up in our Kaplan's Corner.
Yeah, like I wasn't sure if I was getting that or not. So
we got to work on your time.
I know my timing is not awesome. So, all right. Well, the fact that I'm guesting today, co-hosting with you, and get to do a Kaplan's Corner is pretty awesome. So, but yeah, we talked about the strange times that we are in, and so I think I'll be on a little bit more frequently as maybe your sounding board, your therapist, your motivation, your hostage negotiator. Because I think that's sort of like my spiel today, right? It's like on some level, we've effectively been taken hostage by the U.S. government. There's a war that's being fought that we didn't choose. I imagine this is somewhat like people felt in the 60s and into the 70s with Vietnam. But brands and retailers specifically have become collateral damage to this like crazy geopolitical tug of war between number one and number two economies, and it's affecting all of us. A lot of the people on this call specifically, but the greater country, right? And so whether it's our costs, our supply chain, inventory bets, it's all now we're pawns. It's pawns. We're pieces on the board. And so want to talk about that, right? Which is we had COVID, boom. We had inflation, boom, but now we're here with tariffs. And unlike inflation, which I think there's like a clear architect here, Uncle Sam. It didn't come out of wherever, I think, wherever COVID actually came from. And so I think that, if you think ahead to Q4 and the sourcing pain, that's kind of what I feel like this feels like now. And why all this matters is because you can't hit the pause button. Retail runs all the time, and especially e-commerce. I remember pre-e-commerce, there were days off, there were non-stressors, no outages, but you don't have the luxury of that today. So I think, my advice today, which is what I'm here to do, is to, you need to sort of think through the margin impact right away. I think that I wrote a piece earlier this week on LinkedIn about the opportune moments that chaos creates. You're in one. And rather than hunkering down and saying and I wrote another piece today about the war because there was an article in Business Insider about the rumors are beginning about a settlement, and no idea. We have a very, very unpredictable government, a very, very unpredictable leader in place. And so what we need to do is be decisive. And so I think you have to work with your 3PL partners. I think there's been a lot of conversations about willingness. You have to work with your sourcing partners, split some of the cost pain, take on some pain yourself. Think about raising prices. I think that there's a way to sort of diversify pain across all of the different points that are opportunistic margins to basically feel impact for sure, but to lessen it while we get through this point. And we will get through it, right? We will get through it, and we can't stop operating because the supply chain moments are very difficult with Q4. Sort of goods are being put into production now for Q4. You guys talked about last week. I think Jess said Christmas may not happen. Don't break your ornaments. So look, this is just the start. In the next few weeks, we'll get a little bit more tactical about defense and offensive moves you can make. But the first thing we need to do is recognize we're in like a hostage crisis. We have to sort of deal with that. We have to become hostage negotiators, and we're in it together. So that's my spiel for today. It's like, think about those different places. Don't be afraid to raise prices. Don't be afraid to go out to your partners. And don't be afraid to make decisions, because if you stagnate, you die. And that, my friends, is Kaplan's Corner for today.
Awesome, Nick. I appreciate it. This has been a great show for everyone. I think everyone would be good to take your wisdom. Thank you for our guest, Jordan Sielaff, our sponsor, Miracle, our headline Hangover sponsor, Passport, our production team, Podcast on the Fly, Kaylee, Vinny, you, the audience. we also have another podcast, the Watson Weekly, which drops on Monday. Check out our LinkedIn page for more updates. So if you love what you see, subscribe to us on YouTube. We're there. We're always looking for more people. Tell your friends and get involved. Have a great weekend. Our next week's show is actually succeeding. We're going to be talking with Vivrel on luxury. And that, I think that is going to be a super exciting show. But we're talking about real luxury.
Not made in China, air quotes, luxury.
Yeah. So we're happy to hear from Donna Felix from Vivrel.
Yeah, I think it's going to be awesome. Such an interesting topic and such an interesting sector. So
yeah, so we're excited. So that's our show for today. We appreciate you joining in. Are we dancing?
I mean, it's my favorite part of the show.
There we go. We do less dancing with the Tariff.